Aboard the Union vessel Valiant, the Union vessel Valiant drifted through space like a silver blade moving slow through darkness. It was the pride of the Galactic Union, the most advanced ship in the diplomatic fleet. Inside its wide halls, voices echoed in many languages, and boots tapped in rhythm as crew members from different worlds moved to their tasks. The scent of recycled air mixed with the sharp smell of cleaning agents, giving the place a clean but artificial feel. A group of human delegates had boarded 2 hours ago. Most wore dark uniforms with polished badges on their chests. They moved with pride in their steps and clear purpose in their eyes. Their leader, a tall man named Commander Reed, spoke with power as he greeted the alien officers. The Talari. Guards watched them with quiet judgment while the Velkar technicians recorded every movement. No one looked at Tom. He stood at the back of the group. He wore a simple gray jacket and held a small black bag in his hand. His eyes moved slow across the room. He did not speak much. When asked, he gave short answers. He smiled politely when someone made a joke, but never joined the laughter. To most, he looked like a clerk or maybe a technician. His hair was plain, his shoes unshined, his badge unreadable from a distance. The truth was no one cared to ask about him when the inspection began. The crew was ordered to step back from control areas. The visitors walked in lines behind the security officer. One of the Rojan diplomats made sharp remarks about human technology. Commander Reed answered with the usual cold respect. Behind them, Tom followed slow, not too close, not too far. His eyes scanned the walls, the doors, the control panels. Not like a curious guest, but like someone measuring weight and balance in every object. The Valiant's captain, a tall Velkar named Dren, welcomed the humans with firm words and stiff body posture. He was known for discipline and sharp thinking. He looked at Commander Reed and the team, nodded once, then turned away. He never noticed Tom, not once. His eyes passed over him like he was part of the background. Later that cycle, the power flickered for 2 seconds. It was small, so small that most systems did not even log it as an error, but Tom noticed. He looked up as the lights blinked and returned. To normal, he said nothing. He kept walking. The humans were guided to their quarters. Each was given a small room, enough for sleep and work. The doors locked with simple touch panels. Tom's room was the smallest. Inside, he placed his bag on the bed and sat down. He opened it, pulled out a thin notebook and a pen, and began to write something. The letters were small and tight, the kind used by someone who needed to remember more than they could speak at the same time. Across the ship, a security breach alert came through silently to the command deck. A storage unit had been opened without access. When the guard arrived, it was empty. No signs of forced entry. No items missing, nothing strange. Still, something felt off. The officer made a report. The captain read it, frowned, and told him to increase patrols. No alarms were raised. No announcements were made. Everything stayed normal on the surface. Tom was already on the move again. He walked past the mess hall where the others ate and laughed. He passed the training area where 2 soldiers sparred with staffs. He entered a side corridor that led to the engineering section. He did not open any doors. He just looked at the paths, counted the vents, timed the cameras. Later that night, a soft hum began near the power core, just a shift in energy, just a whisper again. Too small for systems to mark. But Tom felt it in his bones. His instinct spoke in silence. He returned to his room, pulled out a folded piece of synthetic cloth, unwrapped it, and checked the tool hidden inside. It was small, not a weapon, just a wire tap and a reader. Old tech, reliable, hard to trace. He placed it under his pillow and lay down. The next cycle brought a change in the ship's routine. A scheduled stop at a neutral station was delayed without reason. Commander Reed questioned the captain, but got no answers. Tension rose like steam under pressure. Species who once smiled now walked faster and spoke less. Tom went to the observation deck and looked out at the stars. One of the Talari guards passed him, and did not stop. Tom's reflection in the glass looked like a man lost in thought, but behind his calm face, patterns formed like puzzle pieces fitting into place. He had seen the shift in behavior. He had noticed the two engineers who swapped shifts without logging. He had heard the whisper in the wiring. He had felt the change in air pressure near the bio. Labby did not tell anyone, he just waited. He listened. He moved like a shadow in plain sight to the others. He remained the quiet man with no real task to the ship. He was just one more human in a group of many, but in Tom's mind, a storm was forming, and he knew something others did not. The danger was not coming. It was already here, and he was the only one watching. The crack beneath the surface, the ship moved in silence through the black of space, while its lights blinked in rhythm, like slow heartbeats. Inside the Union vessel Valiant, nothing looked out of place. Doors opened with soft sounds. Crew members walked with calm steps. But under this calm, a line had begun to crack. And though many saw nothing strange, one man had already felt it. Tom walked through the central hallway with a datapad in hand. His shoes made no sound. His eyes stayed low. Others passed him without turning their heads to them. He was still a quiet man with no importance, the kind of man whose name you forget as soon as he walks away. While the rest focused on routines and orders, Tom focused on shadows and silence. Had noticed how the cleaning cycle near the backup power grid started 2 hours early. Had counted the way one of the Rojan delegates asked to tour engineering 3 times in a single day. He had seen a technician. Were 2 different ID tags in the same cycle. None of it proved anything. But together it made a shape in his mind, a shape that meant danger, that meant someone was trying to do something without being seen. That meant someone had trained well to hide. In plain sight, Tom went to the data relay room where ship logs were stored. He stood near the main console, as if checking basic access. Typed slow, his fingers pressed keys in a pattern made to look random. But the code entered was not for logs. It opened something hidden, a back layer of the ship's network, old software, known only to those who had once worked behind closed walls. A map appeared on the screen for 3 seconds, long enough for Tom to spot a heat signature moving where no one should bait. Was not in the crew path, not near the quarters. It was close to the primary water filter. He closed the screen, walked out, his face calm, his pace steadying. Another part of the ship. The captain met with his officers. The pins is calm, his pace steadying. Another part of the ship. The captain met with his officers. The captain met with his officers. Talari security chief spoke of rising tension between human and Velkar personnel. Rojan envoy complained that his room light dimmed during sleep cycle. The captain waved off their worries with firm words, said these were normal signs of diplomacy between old rivals. One mentioned the small errors piling in the system logs. No. One brought up the weak signal that flickered from the communication hub. For less than a second, the signal that carried no name, no destination, and no trace. Tom passed the mess hall again. He watched 2 humans speak with low voices near the entrance. He read their lips without effort. They talked of upcoming talks with the Rojanthi. Did not notice Tom. No one did, not even when he stopped near the air ducts and placed a small disc on the wall. Disc was a listener, not made for spying, not for blackmail. It was to detect coded pulses hidden in background noise. Something only an old field agent would know how to use that. Night. Another small event happened. A food storage unit was found open, nothing stolen, no marks of force. The report was filed and ignored, but Tom did not ignore. I knew the steps now. He had seen this pattern before, in missions where sabotage came before war, where chaos was made from within by hands that left no prints. Returned to his room and drew a layout on paper. It showed the locations of each strange event, the timing, the pattern. It all pointed to someone moving with care, someone trying to reach the ship's main life systems and do something they did not want others to know. He stared at the map and made a small mark in red. Then he got up and left without making a sound. The Rojan diplomat walked the halls with pride in his step. He believed the humans were too loud, too quick to act, too full of anger. He told this to the Velkar assistant while sipping hot drink in the viewing Lounge they laughed and spoke of past events where humans made mistakes. In that same moment, Tom entered the lower deck. He passed the coolant pipes. He checked a panel behind the storage bin, and there he saw Ida. Small device not part of the ship placed with skill, pulsed once every 10 seconds, a signal sender, and Tom knew what it meant. He had no proof, but he had the truth. He returned to Commander. Reed's room spoke, and a low voice told him only what he needed to know. Reed stared at him, then gave a slow nod no. Questions asked because he trusted Tom. The others saw a quiet man, but Reed knew better. He had seen what Tom could do in silence. He had seen what Tom became when no one watched. Orders were sent in code to lock certain path. Security was increased near engineering. The captain was informed of a possible breach, but even he did not know the full story. Tom asked for no credit. He asked for no name in the log. He simply asked to move alone through the silent zones to find the source, to stop it before it grew larger. The captain gave permission with a cold stare. He still saw Tom as a soft voice in a crowd, but something in his gut whispered to listen. As Tom walked away down the corridor that led to the recycling unit, he held nothing in his hands. No gun, no armor, just a small reader and the look of someone who had seen too much. The ship stayed quiet, but now the silence felt thin, as if something waited just beyond the steel walls, and the only one ready to face it was the man no one had cared to notice. Quiet Blade. Tom walked deeper into the lower deck, where few came without reason. The lights above flickered in slow rhythm, and the air felt thick like something old had been stirred awake. Pipes ran along the walls like the veins of a beast, and the hum of machines whispered with every step. No footsteps echoed here. No voices. Just the silent beat of danger growing stronger with each breath. He moved past locked storage doors and vent shafts covered in dust. The sensor in his hand blinked once and then went dark. That was the signal he waited for. A short, silent flash that told him the foreign pulse had changed again. Someone was not only inside the ship's system, but was now beginning to test how far they could reach. Tom stopped beside a closed hatch that led into the service tunnel. He touched the edge of the panel and felt warmth. Not from heat, but from use. Someone had been here not long ago, not one of the crew. No logs marked it. No maintenance was scheduled. The hatch clicked open with a gentle hiss, and Tom stepped inside. Inside the tunnel, it was dark. Not fully. Just enough to make shapes unclear. He crouched and moved forward, slow and steady. The metal floor was cold. The air had a sharp smell like oil and something sweet. He had smelled this before during missions where synthetic biocompounds were used. That meant something was being built or prepared in secret. He reached a small control box fixed into the wall and opened it with ease. The wires inside looked normal at first, but behind them was something else. A small device the size of a coin pulsed with a faint green light. Tom took a narrow tool from his pocket and tapped it once on the device. The light stopped. The pulse ended. He placed it inside a metal pouch and sealed it tight. Now he knew for sure whoever planted this was not testing the ship. They were preparing for something much bigger. Tom crawled out of the tunnel and made his way toward the recycling unit. On the way, he passed an old section where water filters used to be stored. Something made him stop. He turned and looked at the floor. The pattern of dust had been disturbed. Barely, but enough for someone trained to see. Ive crouched again and ran his fingers along the edge of a panel. It was loose. A soft push revealed a small open space behind it. Inside lay a pack wrapped in black cloth. He unwrapped it and saw 3 vials held in place by foam. No labels, no marks. But he knew what they were. Bioagents. Silent, invisible. Designed to spread before anyone knew they existed. He stood up and heard a sound behind him, a breath held too long, a footstep too soft. He turned fast, but no one was there. He waited. His heart did not race. His hands stayed calm. He placed the vials back and stepped away into the shadows. He knew the enemy would return to finish the plan, so he waited. Time passed. Slow. A sound came again. Soft footsteps, then A shape appeared, not tall, not wide, a normal size, covered in a dark suit with no marks. The figure knelt before the hidden pack, reached for it. Tom moved without a word. No threat, no sound. He came behind the figure and pressed a tool against the neck. A sharp snap, not to harm, just to shock. The figure dropped with no fight. Tom tied the hands and feet with wire. He placed a block near the mouth to stop any noise, then removed the mask. The face was Roginit, one of the public delegates. This one had been hidden, likely entered with fake tags, trained for stealth and slow destruction. Tom searched the suit and found a transmitter hidden in the belt. It was made to send silent signals through heat, almost undetectable. Only someone like Tom would have noticed the patterns. Stood and looked around the empty hall. Still no sound, still no movement. He picked up the captured agent and carried him through the halls past cameras without looking up. Moved behind the bulk of pipes and boxes, every step timed with the hum of the ship. He reached the human quarters and knocked on Reed's door. Reed opened with a tired face that changed fast once he saw the prisoner. Tom spoke short, no full report, just enough to know what came next. Reed called for a private session with the captain. No loud talk, no open charge, only a quiet meeting in the sealed chamber near the bridge. The captain stared at the Rojan, tied and silent on the floor. He did not speak for many seconds. Then he turned to Tom and asked one question. How did you know? Tom gave a short answer. I watched what no one else did. He listened where silence lived, and I saw what you all missed. The captain sat down slow and nodded once. He now understood. Tom was not background. Tom was not extra. Tom was the blade hidden in the coat, the danger behind the quiet eyes. A message was sent to Union Command. No full details, only that a threat had been stopped. The crew was told of false story, security drills, and minor sabotage. Nothing more. The ship returned to normal. Voices rose again. Boots tapped in rhythm, but now the captain's eyes followed Tom as he walked. He no longer passed over him. Watched, he wondered, he feared a little, because now he knew the man who had saved the ship did it alone, with no weapons, with no loud moves, only patience, only silence, only the kind of focus that cannot be trained in bright rooms, only the kind that grows in shadows. As Tom sat in his room again, he opened the same notebook, wrote a new line in the tight small letters, then closed it and slept with the calm of someone who had once again been what others never expected. Quiet blade, the one always overlooked, the one always watching, eyes in the smoke. The Valiant sailed through empty space with steady grace, like a hunter returning from the wild with a secret. All systems showed green. The crew returned to routine. Officers walked with purpose. Engines hummed with strength. But beneath the surface, a new silence had taken hold. It was not fear. It was not relief. It was something between those two. The captain reviewed reports in his private chamber. He read the summary about the captured Rojan operative. He saw the data on the bioagent. He checked the logs from the restricted corridor. Each report led to one name, Tom, a name never listed under security. A man never listed as officer. A figure once ignored by all. Now impossible to forget. He looked up at the screen and watched camera feeds. Tom stood alone near the outer deck. He leaned on a metal rail and looked out at the stars, still, calm, almost peaceful. The captain did not understand how someone could carry such danger and such silence. That question stayed in his mind like a slow wind against steel in the lower sections of the ship. Commander Reed held a meeting with the human crew. He spoke with short words. He explained the truth without full detail. A threat had been stopped. Action was taken, risk avoided, no questions allowed. The crew accepted the message. Trust had been earned. The hard way. Tom did not attend the meeting. He moved through the unused sectors of the ship where metal walls held heat from systems that never slept. He carried no weapon, no tool. Only the same old datapad with damaged corners and faded screen. His fingers moved slow across it. He was watching something, a pattern, a pulse, a sign he had not stopped working. Not yet, because something still felt wrong. The Rojan agent had been skilled. Too skilled to act alone. The tools were not made by one hand. The placement of signals had style and shape. This was not a single act. This was a step in something larger. Tom pulled a wire from a hidden port in the wall and connected it to his pad. Lines of unreadable code blinked across the screen. But Tom did not need translation. He saw meaning in the movement. He saw rhythm in the mess. The ship's system was still pulsing with foreign influence, not in control, not fully active, but present. Waiting, he shut off the pad and walked fast toward the main network control room. Inside the chamber, two engineers stood with confused faces. One asked if something was wrong. Tom gave a soft shake of the head and asked to check the system for a moment. They agreed and stepped aside. They did not know his rank, did not know his background. But something in his voice made them obey. He placed his pad on the main terminal and opened a closed layer of the ship's I-core. There he saw it. A piece of code wrapped inside a friendly update. Not made to destroy, not made to crash, made to open. Made to listen. Made to pass information without sound. It was a ghost, a silent eye waiting for a signal. He did not speak. He worked fast. He trapped the code in a mirror space and fed it false loops. He made it believe the ship was asleep. He made it blind. He made it deaf. It would send no more data. Not now. Not later. The engineers asked what it was. He answered with calm. A mistake in the system. No. Need to worry. They nodded and returned to their tasks. Tom walked out and sent a short message to read. No subject. No signature, just a line. They were not alone that evening. The Valiant reached a supply station near the neutral zone. Docking was slow. Scanners moved across the hull. The crew waited for clearance. But during the scan, a strange echo returned from the cargo bay. One that did not match any manifest. One that carried a strange metal signal. Tom was already on his way there. He reached the bay before the station guards. He entered without speaking. Inside, he found crates stacked high. Nothing looked wrong, but one crate in the corner gave off heat not normal for storage. He opened it and found a device shaped like a folded ring. Small, compact, unknown. He had seen such tech before in dark places. It was a silent relay, a remote bridge for signal jump. It allowed data to travel without trail. He disabled it fast and left the crate open. He let the station guards see it with their own eyes. No more hiding, no more half-truths. No, the Union would know now. The network of silence would break. The captain called Tom to his chamber. Once more he stared at him with sharp eyes. You knew before all of us? Tom nodded. Slow. The captain asked. How? Tom answered with no pride. By paying attention to what no one else sees. The captain leaned back in his chair. You are not what you appear. Tom gave no reply. He did not need one. The truth was clear now. Valiant resumed its journey after station control gave clearance, but the mood on board had changed again. Now crew members watched their surroundings more. They spoke less. They looked at Tom when he passed, not with fernet, with hate, but with a mix of respect and something deeper, a feeling that in times of quiet, it is not the loud protector who saves the day. It is the one who walks without sound, the one who does not need a title, one who waits and acts when the moment is right. In his room, Tom sat once again. He opened his notebook and turned to a clean page. He drew a symbol, not a name, not a word, just a shape, the mark of a new pattern forming, because he knew this was not over. One cell caught means another one hiding. One plan stopped means another one started. He was ready. He would wait again, watch again, and when the time came he would move again like a quiet blade in the dark. The last move. The Valiant moved through the last stretch of its route. Ahead waited the Union Council, the final stop in the diplomatic mission. Behind the walls of shining steel and glowing lights, silence had grown thick. It was not the silence of peace. It was the silence before something began. Like a pause before the storm, Tom stood in the observation deck alone. Stars floated past like sparks in a dark river. His face gave nothing. His eyes stayed steady. Around him officers walked without speaking to him. They had started watching him from a distance. Some called it respect. Others called it fear. Tom had no interest in either. He left the deck and walked through the east corridor. It was near empty. Only one engineer passed him with a nod. Tom gave a slow glance and kept walking. He reached a locked section of the ship, not restricted, not guarded, but rarely used, a perfect place for secrets to hide. He opened the door and stepped in. The room was dark and filled with old cargo units. Boxes sealed long ago. He moved toward the far corner. There he had placed a small sensor 3 cycles ago. Just to be sure, the sensor now blinked slow. That meant someone had been here. That meant this quiet room had held a visitor. Tom searched each box with care. He found one that had been opened and sealed again. The seal was clean, almost perfect. But to Tom's eye it was wrong. He broke it and opened the box. Inside were metal pieces that did not belong. A transmitter, a small explosive, a timer. Each part small, each part silent. Together they made a weapon of signal. He packed the pieces in a bag and walked out. He did not sound an alarm. He did not call the guards. He knew this was not the last trap. He knew the real threat was still moving. Went to the data center where system control was held. 2 officers were working there. Tom waited near the door. He watched the screen. He looked at the hands of one officer. The way he typed, the speed, the rhythm. It did not match the records. That man was not who he claimed. Tom stepped forward. The man turned. Tom said nothing. The man's eyes narrowed. He reached for something. Tom moved first. His hand struck the wrist fast. The tool dropped. Tom stepped close and brought the man down with one motion. No noise, no damage, just control. The other officer froze. Tom showed him a badge, one rarely seen one, that meant silence must be kept. The officer nodded and left the room. Tom tied the fake officer and checked the console. Man had placed a command in the system QA code that would open all lower decks during docking, that would expose the ship to outside signals. Tom deleted the code. He copied the log and stored it in his pad. Then he called Commander Reed. Reed arrived in minutes. His face was hard. He looked at the captured man. Tom spoke short. Second operative, same method, same plan. Reed gave a nod. He called the captain, who came with security. Captain looked at the man and then at Tom. You are doing our job better than we do. Tom gave no answer. Captain asked if there would be more. Tom said maybe. He said nothing more. The Valiant reached the Union Council station 2 cycles later. The ship docked slow and smooth. Delegates from across the galaxy waited. Flags of many worlds waved under artificial light. Crew walked down the ramp with heads high, but Tom did not go with them. He stayed on board. He walked the halls one more time, checking shadows, checking corners. His steps calm, his eyes sharp. In the council chamber, Commander Reed gave his report. He told the story with control. He showed the proof. He explained the danger. The Union Council listened. They asked questions. They watched recordings. They saw Tom and many of them walking quiet, acting fast, ending threats before others noticed. One council member asked, "Who is this man?" Reed gave the answer with a short breath. "Is the reason this mission did not end in fire." The council gave approval for full investigation across other ship. Security was raised. Protocols changed. Eyes now opened wider on the Valiant. Tom stood near the dock window. He looked at the council tower. In the distance, he did not smile. He did not frown. He just watched behind him. Reed stepped close. He said, "Thank you." Tom nodded. Reed asked him what now. Tom said he would stay on the ship, not because of orders, not because of duty, but because there would always be another move, another shadow, another plan, hidden behind polite smiles and soft voices. Reed placed a hand on his shoulder, said, "You are the kind of man this galaxy never sees until it's too late." Tom looked at him and said that is the point. He turned and walked away, back into the hall, back into silence. The crew watched him go. Salute, no cheer, only understanding. Was not the kind of hero they sang about. He was not the one in the light. He was the reason they were still alive. Later that night, Tom sat in his room. He opened his notebook. He wrote the final line on the last page. "It's sometimes the only way to win is to never be seen." He closed the book. He placed it in his bag and leaned back on the small bed. Outside, the stars moved in silence inside. The ship, the lights dimmed slow. The danger had passed for now, but if it ever came again, they would not need to look far. The most dangerous man would still be there in plain sight, and no one would notice until it was too late. The end.